What if I told you two teenagers disappeared from a crowded pier with 200 witnesses watching and nobody saw a thing? June 9th, 1989. Graduation night. Sarah Martinez and Michael Chen walked toward the end of Ocean View Pier at 11:47 p.m. Security cameras captured them laughing. Witnesses heard their voices. But at 11:52 p.m. they were gone, vanished. The pier was still packed with people. No splashes in the water, no screams, no signs of struggle. How do two people disappear in front of 200 eyes? The answer was hiding 40 feet below where everyone was standing. For 35 years. Before we begin, subscribe to uncover the stories they tried to bury and ensure no case is ever forgotten. Ocean View Pier was the most popular meeting spot on California's Santa Cruz coast. Built in 1952, this 400-foot wooden pier was famous for its arcade games, cotton candy stands, and restaurants that stayed open late into the night. On summer evenings, thousands of people would come here, walk over the Pacific Ocean, watch the sunset, and listen to music. It was a special place, especially for young people. First kisses, first dates, graduation celebrations, everything happened on this pier. On Friday, June 9th, 1989, Santa Cruz High School had just finished its graduation ceremony. 400 students wore their red and white gowns and received their diplomas to the applause of their families. The ceremony ended at 7 p.m., and celebrations began. Families made restaurant reservations. Friends organized parties. But the biggest celebration was at Ocean View Pier. Traditionally, every graduation night, high school students would flock to the pier. Music, dancing, and laughter would continue until morning. Sarah Martinez was 18 years old. She had long brown hair, brown eyes, and an infectious smile. She was one of the most beloved students in her class. She was editor of the school newspaper, president of the drama club, and had won a full scholarship to UCLA. Her dreams were big. She would study journalism, maybe one day become a reporter for CNN. Her mother, Maria Martinez, had raised her daughter alone. Sarah's father had left home when she was a baby. Maria worked as a cashier at a supermarket and worked 2 jobs to ensure her daughter could go to college. Sarah knew about her mother's sacrifice and was determined to make her proud. Michael Chen was 18 years old. He was the son of a Chinese immigrant family. His father ran a laundromat, and Michael worked there every day after school. He was a brilliant student, talented in mathematics and physics. He had been accepted to Stanford University's engineering program, and his family was proud of him. Michael was quiet, hardworking, and kind. His friends described him as the guy who always does the right thing. Sarah and Michael met in their senior year of high school. They were in the same math class and became partners during a group project. At first, they were just friends, but over time, something developed between them. Michael was impressed by Sarah's energy and passion. Sarah loved Michael's calmness and honesty. In April, Michael gathered his courage and asked Sarah to the prom. Sarah said yes, and from that day on, they were officially a couple. On graduation night, both were happy to have their families at the ceremony. Maria Martinez couldn't hold back her tears as her daughter received her diploma. The Chen family also applauded their son. After the ceremony, families went home for dinner, but Sarah and Michael had made plans to meet friends at Ocean View Pier. At 10:30 p.m., Sarah said goodbye to her mother, Maria. She wore a white summer dress, her hair was up, and she had light makeup on. She had pinned the red orchid Michael bought her to her dress. "I'll be home by midnight, Mom," she said. "Don't worry, Michael will be with me." Maria hugged her daughter. "Stay safe, sweetheart. This is your night. Have fun." Sarah smiled and walked out the door. Michael also said goodbye to his family. His father told him, "Be careful, son. Don't be late." Michael nodded. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll get Sarah home safely." The Chen family trusted their son. At 11 p.m., Sarah and Michael met at the Ocean View Pier entrance. The pier was crowded that night. Hundreds of graduates, their families, and tourists were there. Colorful lights illuminated the pier, arcade music played, and the smell of cotton candy and popcorn filled the air. At the pier entrance was security guard Tom Bradley. He was 45 years old and had been doing this job for 10 years. He was assigned to this shift every graduation night because he got along well with young people. That night, he took his duty seriously. He checked everyone's ID and didn't let anyone in who had been drinking. Sarah and Michael showed Tom their IDs at the entrance. Tom recognized them. "Hey kids, congratulations, big night, huh?" he said. Sarah smiled. "Thanks, Tom." "Yes, it's going to be an unforgettable night." Michael also nodded. "Good evening, Tom." The couple entered the pier. At 11:15 p.m., Sarah and Michael walked along the pier. They stopped at the arcade games section. Michael played the claw machine and won a small stuffed bear for Sarah. Sarah laughed. "Oh, Michael, that's so sweet," she said, and kissed the bear. Then they got cotton candy and continued walking toward the end of the pier. At 11:30 p.m., they reached the railing at the very end of the pier. This was the most romantic spot. You could look directly at the ocean, hear the sound of the waves, and see the stars. Sarah and Michael leaned against the railing and talked. They talked about their future plans, college life, and their dreams. Sarah asked, "Can I visit you while I'm at UCLA?" Michael smiled. "Of course. Come every weekend." Sarah rested her head on Michael's shoulder. "This night is perfect." At 11:47 p.m., arcade operator Danny Morrison checked the end of the pier. It was part of his job. Every hour on the hour, he would walk around the pier and check if there were any problems. He saw Sarah and Michael at the railing. They looked happy. Danny didn't even look at them, just kept walking. Everything was normal. At 11:49 p.m., another witness, a tourist named Emily Rogers, took a photo of Sarah and Michael. Emily was using a telephoto lens camera and was photographing the pier scenery. In the photo, Sarah and Michael were standing side by side, smiling. Emily would give this photo to the FBI in 2024. At 11:50 p.m., Sarah and Michael were still there. Another witness, Jake Hartman, was approaching the end of the pier with his friend. Jake was Michael's classmate. "Hey, Michael." "Sarah," he called out. Michael turned and waved. "Hey, Jake." Jake said, "I'll be back in a bit." "I'm going to try the games now," and walked away. At 11:52 p.m., Danny Morrison returned to check the end of the pier again. But this time, there was nobody at the railing. Sarah and Michael were gone. Danny thought this was normal. Maybe they went to get cotton candy. Maybe they went to the bathroom. He didn't worry about it. At midnight, the pier slowly began to empty. Families were heading home. Tom Bradley, the security guard, counted the exits. He knew how many people had entered the pier because he had given out the entrance tickets himself. 243 people had entered. But when he counted those leaving, he counted 241 people. 2 people were missing. Tom initially thought he had made a counting error. Maybe he had counted someone twice, but he checked, reviewed his notebook. The numbers were correct. 2 people had entered the pier but hadn't left. Tom opened his radio and called the other security guard, Mark. "Mark, check the pier. 2 people are missing." Mark scanned the pier from end to end. He looked in the arcade area, in the restaurants, in the bathrooms. Nobody was there. The pier was empty. Tom panicked. How could 2 people disappear on a pier? The pier had only one entrance. If they had jumped into the sea, someone would have heard the splash. If they had struggled, someone would have noticed. At 12:15 a.m., police were called. Santa Cruz. Police Department officer Linda Vasquez arrived. She assessed the situation and understood it was serious. Close the pier completely. Nobody in or out. Call the K9 unit and divers. At 12:30 a.m., dogs began scanning the pier. Sarah and Michael's scent disappeared at the railing, vanished. The dogs couldn't find any trace beyond that point. It was as if two humans had dissolved into thin air. At 1 a.m., divers searched the water under the pier. They found nothing. No bodies, no clothing, no shoes. The water was clear. At 3 a.m., the FBI was called. This case was no longer a missing persons case, but a potential kidnapping. Special Agent Robert Kane came from the San Francisco office. He listened to the situation and was shocked. Two people disappear from a pier with 200 witnesses watching. This is impossible. At 6 a.m., Maria Martinez realized her daughter hadn't come home. She called, she texted, she got no response. In fear, she called the police. "My daughter Sarah is missing. She was supposed to be home by midnight." The police told her that Sarah had disappeared at Ocean View Pier. Maria screamed and collapsed. The Chen family was also called. Michael's father yelled into the phone, "Where is my son?" The police gave the same information. The father dropped the phone from his hand. The first 48 hours were critical. The FBI, Coast Guard, local police, and volunteers all mobilized. The pier was searched millimeter by millimeter. Wooden planks were removed, undersides checked. Every screw, every nail was examined. Nothing was found. Sarah and Michael's friends were questioned. Jake Hartman said, "I saw them at 11:50 p.m. They were happy." Nothing seemed strange. Emily Rogers gave her photo to the FBI. The photo was analyzed, but there were no clues. Security cameras were reviewed. There were 3 cameras on the pier, one at the entrance, one in the middle, one at the end. But the end camera was malfunctioning that night. There was no recording. This raised suspicion. The FBI investigated why the camera malfunctioned. Was it a technical failure or sabotage? No answer was found. The media made it big news. Headlines like "Mysterious Disappearance on Graduation Night" appeared in newspapers. Sarah and Michael's graduation photos were shown on television. Their families tearfully begged, "Please find our children." Tips started pouring in. Someone said they saw Sarah in Los Angeles. Another claimed to have seen Michael in San Francisco. The FBI followed up on every tip. None were true. In the first week, the FBI developed a theory. Maybe Sarah and Michael had run away. Maybe they had made a secret plan away from their families. But this theory made no sense. Sarah was going to UCLA. Michael was going to Stanford. Both were happy with their lives. Why would they run away? In the second week, another theory emerged. Maybe there was a serial killer. Maybe someone had targeted them on the pier. The FBI reviewed all missing persons cases in the area. Another young couple had disappeared in 1985. A woman had disappeared in 1987. Was there a connection? Nothing definitive was found. In the third week, the case went cold. The FBI moved on to other cases. Maria Martinez collapsed. Every day she would enter her daughter's room, touch her belongings, and look at her photos. "Where is Sarah? Why did she leave me?" she would cry. The Chen family also fell apart. The father quit his job. The mother fell into depression. Michael's room remained as it was. Years passed. 1990, 1991, 1992. Sarah and Michael's case was forgotten. The media lost interest. New news. New tragedies occurred. But the two families never gave up. Maria Martinez would go to Ocean View Pier every year and pray for her daughter. In 1995, Maria hired a private detective. The detective reviewed all the evidence again but couldn't find anything new. The money ran out. The search stopped. In 2000, the FBI officially closed the case. Sarah and Michael were marked as presumed dead, but since bodies couldn't be found, no official death announcement could be made. In 2010, Maria Martinez was diagnosed with cancer. Her health deteriorated, but she still didn't lose hope. "I don't want to die without finding Sarah," she would say. In 2022, Maria died. Her last words were, "Tell Sarah I love her." The Chen family followed a similar path. The father died of a heart attack in 2015. The mother was left alone, disillusioned with life. In March 2024, a powerful hurricane hit the California coast. It was named Hurricane Delta and devastated Santa Cruz. Waves reached 30 feet high. Ocean View Pier, with its 72-year-old structure, couldn't withstand it. The hurricane leveled the pier. Wooden planks were shattered. The structure collapsed. After the hurricane passed, the Santa Cruz municipality began debris cleanup. Construction crews were removing pier remnants. On March 15, 2024, worker Marcus Cole noticed something metal under the debris. At first, he thought it was an old pipe, but when he looked closer, he was shocked. It was a door, a steel door, rusted but solid. Marcus yelled, "Boss, you need to come here." Boss Tony Rivera came and saw the door. "What is this?" he asked. They checked the pier plans. Nowhere did it mention this door. Tony said, "Call the police. Call the FBI. This could be a crime scene." The FBI arrived on the scene within 2 hours. Special Agent Lisa Park and her team secured the area. Debris around the door was cleared. The door was 15 feet deep, below the pier's foundation. There was no writing on it, just a lock. A bolt cutter broke the lock. The door opened. Stale, damp air came from inside. Lisa looked inside with a flashlight. There were stairs going down. Lisa and 2 agents descended the stairs. They went down 20 feet and arrived at a room. The room had concrete walls. The ceiling was low, but it was spacious. In the corner was an old bed, a table, chairs. On the wall were metal rings, chain remnants. On the floor were stain marks, broken glass, fabric pieces. And then Lisa saw something. On the floor, among the dust, was a red and white graduation tassel. Lisa picked it up. On it was written Santa Cruz High School, 1989. "Oh my God," Lisa whispered. "This is..." Agent Rodriguez asked, "Is this where Sarah and Michael disappeared?" Lisa nodded. They scanned the room in more detail. In a corner, they found a plastic box. Inside were 2 graduation diplomas. Names: Sarah Martinez, Michael Chen. There was also a Polaroid camera with a single photo inside. The photo showed Sarah and Michael, but they looked frightened. In the background was this concrete room. Lisa immediately called headquarters. "We found the case. Sarah Martinez and Michael Chen were brought here. This is a cell." The room's walls had soundproofing materials. Ventilation was minimal. Escape was impossible. This room was built to hold victims. The FBI lab team arrived. DNA samples were collected. Hair strands, nail fragments, and fabric fibers were taken from the walls. All belonged to Sarah and Michael. But there were no bodies. Lisa asked, "If they died here, where are the bodies?" They scanned the lower part of the room. They found a hidden compartment, a panel in the wall. The panel opened, revealing a small tunnel inside. The tunnel led forward. Lisa entered the tunnel. She went 50 feet forward and arrived at another room. This room was smaller. Inside were filing cabinets. Lisa opened a cabinet. Inside were dozens of files. Each file had a name and a photo on it. Sarah Martinez, Michael Chen, Angela Foster, 1985, David Kim, 1987, Rachel Gomez, 1990, a total of 23 files. Lisa held her breath. This is a serial killer. The files were examined. Each file described a victim. Personal information, habits, tracking notes. Someone had systematically targeted these people. The most shocking finding was at the end of the files. In a notebook were handwritten notes. Under the pier is perfect. Nobody suspects. New targets every graduation season. Easy prey. Signature, DK. The FBI investigated who DK was. Employee records from the pier from the 1980s to 1990s were examined. One name stood out, Derek Kingsley. Pier maintenance worker, employed from 1978 to 1995. Derek Kingsley left Santa Cruz in 1995 and moved to Alaska. In 2024, he was 68 years old. The FBI team went to Alaska. Kingsley's house was raided. More evidence was found in the house: trophies, photos, personal items. Kingsley had taken something from each victim. Sarah's orchid, Michael's graduation ring. Everything was there. When Derek Kingsley was caught, he showed no remorse. In the FBI interrogation, he coldly confessed, "The pier was my hunting ground. Young people were always there, distracted, careless. I built the trap door. I made a room underneath. Nobody knew. Every graduation season, I would choose someone. They would come to the pier. I would watch them. When the right moment came, I would set the trap and make them fall into it." The door was at the very end of the pier, but it was hidden under a wooden panel. I would lure someone there, open the door, push them in. They would fall down. Then I would close the door. Nobody would hear or see anything. "What did you do to Sarah and Michael?" Lisa asked. "I kept them for 10 days. Then I killed them. I threw their bodies into the ocean. The waves took them away." Derek Kingsley was tried for first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. At 68 years old, he would die in prison. Sarah and Michael's remains were never found, but their families at least learned the truth. The Chen family held a press conference in 2024. The mother said, "I waited 35 years. Wondering where my son was. Now I know. Derek Kingsley took him. But Michael's soul has found peace." Maria Martinez was no longer alive, but her sister Anna spoke. "Maria waited for Sarah every day. She never gave up. I wish she could have learned the truth. But at least we know. Sarah was an innocent victim. Ocean View Pier was never rebuilt. Instead, a memorial park was built in its place. Sarah Martinez and Michael Chen's names were engraved on a granite monument. Every year on June 9th, the city holds a memorial ceremony. This story shows us that even the safest-looking places can hide dark secrets. What happened at Ocean View Pier in 1989 wasn't just the death of 2 people. It was the loss of a community's innocence. People like Derek Kingsley could live secretly in society, appearing to be trustworthy. Sarah and Michael's story was proof of that. Today, the FBI has developed new systems to prevent such cases. Situations where children go missing are detected much faster. Thanks to technology, GPS tracking, security cameras, and rapid communication networks make it harder for such criminals to operate. But the most important lesson is this: society must remain vigilant. Children's safety is everyone's responsibility. Reporting suspicious situations, maintaining regular communication with children, and ensuring their safety are the first steps in preventing such tragedies. The Ocean View case also showed that missing persons investigations should never be abandoned. Evidence found after 35 years provided closure to families and contributed to preventing similar crimes. Justice came late, but it ultimately prevailed. Sarah Martinez and Michael Chen's love story ended tragically, but their memory will live forever in Santa Cruz. The pier is gone, but their story inspires the protection of future generations. Because no forgotten story is truly forgotten.